Welcome back, Stay Paid listeners. Before we bring on our guest today, we would love it if you take a minute to subscribe to Stay Paid on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to join us over at YouTube as well. YouTube.com/Reminder Media. Subscribe to that. You'll get all of the latest Stay Paid episodes. Today on the podcast, we have somebody, if you've been following our journey, you have heard this gentleman's name. With the Acree Brothers Realty team, one of the newest members, new in real estate, 2 years in, joining real estate in May of 2023. We're going to get into his journey today. Already top 10 on the Lynchburg MLS and over 100 transactions closed in his career. I think he said 120, so we'll find out more about that today as well. Tim Bushnell of the Acree Brothers Realty team, the number one team in Lynchburg, Virginia. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Dude, we are excited to have you on the show. I've talked about you a ton. I get the awesome opportunity to talk to you every week, which is fantastic. Anybody who's listening to the show, you guys know we are trying to take Q&A as well, right? So if you have questions about your business, because you're going to hear how Tim has succeeded in this market, but if you have questions about your business, make sure you get those questions into us. You can go to remindermedia.com/ask. Or you can DM us at Stay Paid Podcast, and we will answer your questions. We would love to reach out to you and have you live on the show to answer your questions, because we want to make this the most helpful place in real estate to get your info. That is our goal. Number one podcast. That's what we're shooting for. Woo. So let's get into your journey, Tim, because you started 2 years ago. I think we said you started in May. From May to May, you did 40. The next May to May, you're now done 80 deals. And you started in what the market would say is been the worst market in like 30 years. And a lot of people are saying that right now this year is worse than even 2008. So it's a really tough time. The stats are alarming how many real estate agents are not doing deals. I'm starting this podcast off really doom and gloom right now. But it's a really tough time. But here's the thing and the point I want to make and get into your journey. You've succeeded in that because you knew no different. And you got in and you just started to grind and do the things that you need to do to be successful. And so I want to get into that. First, let's talk about why did you get into real estate? And then tell us what you see in your first year or the activities that you did to help you get that 40 in your first year.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I never thought of it as a bad market, but when I got in and I realized rates were climbing, I actually was really excited because every incredible real estate agent I know, except for really Steven, because he got in at 2015, it was probably one of the best markets, but most of the people I followed got in at like 2008, 2009. Some of the greatest realtors who are have incredible businesses today started at the worst, or they went bankrupt during that time and then came back. So I knew if I came in at a bad time that it would be better for me because I would learn how to like work in a shift and go. So yeah, that
why
was
did you
exciting.
get in? Why did you choose to get into real estate? Because you also had moved from Texas to Virginia. So I love sharing that too, because a lot of people, when we try to, talk with them, they're like, I'm in a brand new space. I'm in a brand new market. I don't have a sphere. And so they make that excuse. You obviously had some family in the area you were moving to, so you had a little bit of a sphere, but you had moved to a new zone. Why real estate? What made you get in?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be in real estate maybe people will know this, but if you don't know, my first job out of college was at Reminder Media.
Best place in the world.
Yep. So I know these guys, and it's a great company to work for, and it's a great product. But I was remembering some of the realtors I talked to who were telling me what they did, how many deals they made, and how much money they made from those deals. And then when I was in my early 20s, I told my wife, I was like, I should get in real estate. But we were pregnant with our first. And so it took me 12 years working in the marketing space to finally get to a place where I could leave the paycheck environment and get into the self-employed environment. And so it was kind of a no-brainer. It started out with me actually trying to get a senior director role at Reminder Media, and
we turned him down.
Yeah, well, I bombed every interview. So I remember interviewing with your director of HR, and after that, I was like, man, that did not do very well. And then I interviewed with Nick, who's your VP of sales, I think, now, and I bombed that, didn't do well. Ethan calls me. He's like, "You're about to interview with Josh and with Mike, and you have to nail this one, or no one's gonna let me hire you." And I was like, "All right, dude, I'm gonna nail it. I'm gonna kill this interview. Josh and Mike don't know what's coming." Get off the phone with Ethan, and I'm like, "I'm not gonna nail this interview. I don't think I'm right for this job." So I go home. I'm a person of faith, right? I believe in Jesus, so I spend a lot of time in prayer on it. And I call Luke and I'm like, "I don't think I'm supposed to work at Reminder Media." And Luke's like, "Yeah, man, I mean, we'd love for you to work at Reminder Media, but what are you going to do?" And I was like, "I'm going to flip houses." And Luke's like, "We flipped, well, not personally, but you told me Steven flipped a lot of houses. There's a big gap between when you start a project and when you get your money." And I was like, "Well, what's a way to supplement that gap? I'll get my real estate license and I'll sell other houses in between that gap." So I go and I meet with Steven and Cody, and when they broke down what they were doing as a team and what was possible for me, I said, "Oh, I can do this, and the flips can just be a supplemental income." So fast forward today, I still haven't done a flip, but I've sold 120 homes. In the last 12 months, I've done 17.5 million in volume. So I've made really great money, and I get to be on the best team in Lynchburg. And I get to work with the best marketing company for real estate agents every day and get to test out your products and use them to stay connected with my clients. So it was like full circle for me to be that 23-year-old kid on the phones saying what we do, why we do it, and how it works, for real estate agents to deliver incredible value and sell the magazine, to then be using the magazine and be like, "I was right. It works. If you work, it works." And that's
the key point. If you work, it works. It's like the best system is the one you use.
That's right.
That's so good. It's interesting how, like, you guys' perspective, Steven and Cody, because you obviously have the different perspective of he's coming into your team. What did you guys see in Tim? Did he shock you? Did you think he was going to be successful, or did you go, "I'm not sure if he's going to be successful," and he actually surprised you?
Be successful, but purely on the drive, side of things. It's like you just have to have that hunger to do it. Because obviously there's a lot of skill sets that you're going to have to learn coming in. And it's just, there's so many nuances. There's so much getting beat up on the phones and all that good stuff. But Tim is just one of those guys that he's on the grind. He wants it. He has the drive. And so he's going to learn. He's the single person that, like, when you have coachings, he is always coming with questions. And I think that's a big game changer for people. It's like, "Hey, I had this person. I didn't close them. This is why I think I didn't close them. What do you guys think?" And that helps out a ton.
Yep, and that's the number one biggest driver. We've talked about it before for any real estate agent, of like what makes a good real estate agent. The number one thing is drive.
Yeah.
What is your goals? What are you after? And a lot of people talk about it, and then they don't really follow up on it. But like Tim, has big responsibilities with his family and where he wants to go. So he had all the means to say, "Yep, that is why I had that drive." That why was big enough to be like, "Oh yeah, dude, you'll crush this."
Now I can't say there wasn't any fear, because he said he's like, "I got to make 150 grand." My first year, I'm like, "Oh, God." Inside, I'm thinking that.
Well, I will never.
Go ahead.
No, this tells you a lot about Steven, because we were in a meeting. He's standing up. I'm standing up. Cody's sitting there watching us, and I'm like, "Dude, do you really?" I've talked to thousands of real estate agents in my marketing career, and my opinion is that the stat that 74% of agents didn't sell anything last year had nothing to do with the market. 74% of agents don't sell anything. Anyways, that was my opinion, because like I did so much marketing for him, and I'm like, "You really think I can do 150,000?" And Steven's like, "I know you can do it. Why wouldn't you?" And I was like, "If Steven believes I can do it, then I can do it." And Cody's like, "Here's the game plan. Literally 50 unique dials a day, right? You got to show up this time. You need to be prospecting at least 4 hours a day to get the dials in. You need to set one appointment a day, Monday through Friday." And I was like, "All right, there's a plan. I just had to work the plan." I did not make $150,000. I made like 99 or something.
Yeah, dude, that's so good. I love that, because there's so many golden nuggets there. One is just having immense curiosity. And you always see that in the most successful people, is they just want to know how things work, and they're not embarrassed to ask questions. And if you find yourself embarrassed to ask a question, you got to, start thinking about your pride and going, "Why am I embarrassed that this person would look at me differently because I don't know something. So that is a huge trait of top producers. And then also, I mean, just having someone that believes in you, right, and can tell you can do something to give you the confidence is, I mean, we all need that person in our life that's going to tell us how you can do it. And then working the plan, like work the plan all day long. Let's get into the tactics of the plan. If you can remember, like, what did you commit to? I know it's changed a little bit now, but it's very similar. But can you walk us through what your week would look like from the things that kind of you knew you had to do every single day?
Yeah. So when I started, I knew the first 90 days, this is what everybody told me, and I just knew it from when like onboarding new people when I was in leadership at GoDaddy. I knew the first 90 days were going to be the most important and the hardest. And in being in real estate and it being a long sales cycle, I recognized that, hey, I'm going to do a lot of work and meet a lot of people that I might not see anything for months or years from. And it's just about doing that activity every year so I can bump into the people who are ready to do something right now. So that was my mentality. And then I gamified it from there. So I was like, all right, how do I make this fun? And so I had a number of calls I wanted to make. And then I had a number of connections I wanted to make. And then I had a number of conversations I wanted to have, and then appointments. So if I had no connections and therefore no conversations and set no appointments, at least I would be able to say I made $150, $200, that day. And we use Follow Up Boss, so it actually keeps score. So each of those have a different score that you can use. And so I would try to find people to compete with, which was really hard in the beginning until they brought on some really some guys who were motivated and super hardworking, and then it was fun to compete. But I would just compete with the ISA. So like I would figure out how many, because their job is just to make calls. So I was like, well, what's our ISA going to do? Can I beat the ISA today? Right. That was my goal. And that was the call plan. And then I knew I needed to be the realtor I had to be the first realtor everybody thought of in my church and in my sphere. And so I did a challenge. Luke challenged me to do 5 for 5, which was to reach out to 5 people every day with a text or a message on Facebook. So I did that for the first 90 days. It was hit or miss. I didn't always hit it, but it made me think about people and reach out to people and engage with people. And then from there, it was really easy for me to do another 5 for 5, which was 5 coffee or lunch dates a week with people who owned homes. So it put me in front of homeowners face to face. I talked to them. We'd go through it. And so that was the game plan. I mean, that was my prospecting. I started taking an open house every weekend. I tried to do 2 if I could every weekend. And then I learned how to convert. It took me a while to figure out how to convert open house leads into actual buyers. But once I figured that out.
What was the big, I know it's hard to always narrow down to one thing, but what do you think was a huge change there in the conversion of open houses for you, and trying to get them to like an appointment and stuff like that?
Yeah, I realized that you have to, Steven says this all the time, and so I'm just reiterating what he says. You cannot be afraid of what they think about you, because that person walked into an open house because they want to buy a house. If they're not signed with another realtor, then who cares if they think you're horrible and they hate you for annoying them? You have to shoot your shot. So obviously be strategic. I figured out that if I could do that, I could hound somebody, so to speak, if I understood their goals and their timeline. And so collecting data became the most important part of the open house for me with people, and I identifying, as soon as I started to be able to identify quickly who were the people that didn't have agents and were going to transact the next 90 days, then it was easy for me to focus on them and not ignore, but be politely and respectfully ignore everybody else in the open house. And then actually, I'm just reiterating the open house thing that you guys, the podcast you guys did. So you should go back and listen to that podcast.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You should go listen to that podcast of, we walk through the SOPs of the open house. Steve and I are actually doing a webinar today. Actually, it's kind of comical. We're doing a webinar training today for agents on that. But I think you're hitting the key point, which is you've got, like Tony Robbins teaches, if you think of sales in general, like the general aspect of sales, people either have a pain they are trying to get rid of or a desired outcome they're trying to achieve. And usually it's both. I have a desired outcome and I have a pain point that's keeping me from that. And your goal as a salesman is to discover what the desired outcome is and what the pain point is, and then insert your value proposition of how you eliminate pain and help them achieve the desired outcome for, easier, quicker, higher quality, whatever the value prop is. But like that's sales 101 training. So essentially, if you think about what you just said, and it can apply to everything outside of even open houses, how do I determine with the prospect I'm talking to what their desired outcome is and what is the pain point that is keeping them from that desired outcome, and insert the value proposition of what I can bring to the table.
And take action on it. So like Tim even said, he had to learn through doing open houses how to do it better. Tim took our system that we had and improved it a ton, but that's because he was doing 2 open houses, doing them often, and just taking action even when he really didn't know how to do it. So that's one, like, kudos to you, Tim. And for anybody out there that's starting as a new agent, and what you can do is go do the thing and do it a lot.
Yeah.
Like, go do the thing, do it several times, and have a mindset that I don't know it all, but I have to do it, and then take the opportunity to learn from that to be better. And that's one thing Tim does at a high level is he does something. I know we were talking about FSBOs one time. I'm calling FSBOs. He's like, oh, FSBOs stink. I'm not going to call those. I can't do it right. We got in our coaching. We practiced the script together. And then Tim took action. Next thing, called a FSBO and got an appointment from that coaching. So Tim takes things, puts it in action, and then develops it in his own way. But that will never start if you don't start the very first thing, which was you don't know really what you're doing and how to do it exactly, but you do it anyways. And then you keep getting better.
Yeah, it's so well said. How many calls, again, would you make a day, Tim, in your first year? Just average.
Yeah, I needed to hit 50 unique dials, and we double dial when we call.
So about 100 calls.
Yeah, that's a little over 100.
So about 100 calls. Now, because you joined the team, this is just clarity for people listening. Because you joined the team, Steven's team does a lot of lead gen through Facebook leads and through Google, and then circle prospecting. So those were kind of the 3 areas, mainly Facebook leads, circle prospecting is probably where you were making your dials. Every single one of you go watch the episode we did on circle prospecting, because it's a free lead source that you can do right now and do that every single day like Tim was doing. And what was the most impressive thing, and still is, I tell you all the time about you, Tim, is the discipline you have to do things consistently. And we always say success is showing up, doing what you know you need to do, especially when you don't want to do it at the highest level for long periods of time, right? That is what success is. That is what you've implemented. Those coffee things, that's not just a nice thing to say on a podcast. I remember you doing all those coffees and those lunch dates and getting everybody that you knew to see if they would go to coffee with you or to lunch with you. But the key point here is you would rarely, if you remember us talking every week, you would rarely show up and have actually completed what you committed to, right? And it was, but you didn't let that stop you. You kept going and you kept trying to get to a place. And then ultimately you got to the place where you were completing it. And then obviously we raised the goal. But it's like that. I see a lot of people, they commit to something, they don't succeed. And then that adversity keeps them. It almost is like you don't go to the gym one day, it's easier not to go the next day.
Absolutely.
Right. And every day you fail at your goal, it's an easier time for you to fail at the next goal, but you don't have that. Like you didn't let that, like not hitting the goal stop you from doing it again, the same way with more intensity. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, I had the fortunate, I got to be in leadership. I got to lead leaders of people, right? So I was in a position where I watched people with incredible potential who were doing great hit a stumbling block. And they always say the hardest day is the day after failure. Like it's harder to restart than to start. And so I saw that and I knew that, and it's still really hard. And I know that if I want to hit my goals, I have to get into this uncomfortableness. And so that was it. It was just, I knew those were the day I basically tricked my brain into being like, I failed yesterday. I'm so freaking pumped to get back out of today and show past Tim that future Tim can do it and reward future Tim. You know, like I don't want to, Like I'm going on vacation on Sunday, and I'm like, oh, shoot, when I come back, Tim Bushnell on the 12th of May is going to have to work so hard to get the business momentum going again. And so I'm trying to set him up for success today. And that was my mindset. Like, you got to
That's
get
so good.
past that failure and set yourself back up. And there's no way to be perfect. I've tried. I mean, you see my goals. Like I'll text Luke and Steven and Cody every morning. This is what I'm doing for the day. And there's weeks where I have a specific goal on there every single day. Like, I'm going to hit it this day. It's going to be perfect this day. And then eventually, like the third day, I drop the goal. I'm like, all right, I haven't hit it the other days. So let's give me a goal that I can hit. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
There is a cool truth in there. Is like, I'm big on helping people do what they say, because I think the ultimate professional is the person who does exactly what they say. And I don't even do that, right? It's like, it's what you strive for, that perfect integrity. That is what I say I do every single time. And that turns into your reputation, which your reputation is your brand, and your brand is how you get business, at least in the service-based world, but I believe in any world. And so it's like, can you do what you say 100% of the time? And can you have the humility? And this is something I've been learning of late. Can you have the humility to admit what you can't do and do what you can do, but not let the admittance of what you can't do stop you from striving for being better? And that's like the balance. Some people need to set 10x goals, because unless they set 10x goals, they can't actually push themselves harder. But can you imagine being the person who could set the goal that you can do, but not let that stop you from constantly just moving forward every day, that 1% better, as the Atomic Habits would say, to get you to that 10x version? And that is really what I think a great professional is. But it's everybody has different mind hacks, I guess, to help them get motivated every day. Yours was future Tim, thinking about future Tim and acting positive, even if you didn't feel positive, but acting positive.
Like, success is built on small changes, not big changes. And I think that's where, Tim, you just thrive. It's like, the reason we say consistency is because there's so many nuances to open houses. There's so many nuances to circle prospecting. And if you go in there and you don't see success, but you're doing some of the activities, you're probably only not seeing the results from the small changes. Like, I think you've said it before, but the story of the watch, there's so many gears in the watch. If one of them's not working, just one of them, the watch is not working, right? And so it's like, Tim comes to our coachings and we go, hey, this is not working. But we don't shift from the goal. Like, we don't go, hey, we're trying to close 12 open houses. We've got only 2 open houses closed this year. We're already past the first, quarter in the business. We don't go scratch open houses. We go, what are you doing for open houses, and where can we make the small nuance change to make sure we get to that goal?
That's great.
Tim does that the absolute best, right? And I think that comes down to consistency and tracking at the same time.
You have done a really good job tracking. I know that's a lot of, Cody, what you are implementing throughout Acree Brothers. You've done a great job with, but you do a great job tracking all of your numbers, Tim. And I remember you pulling up Excel docs. You still have them. I know you guys use Sisu now to track most of your stuff, but I remember you pulling up Excel docs. But also I want the audience to know, like, your 40 deals and 80 deals, it's very spread. Like, you have Sphere is big. You have Facebook is big, because you do a lot of Facebook lead calling now. You have investors that you work with, which you kind of could classify also in Sphere, but we don't, separate it out. You have like 2 or 3 investors you've built relationships with. I can't wait to have you back on the show to do a whole show on just investors. Yep. And because you work with 2 or 3 that are feeding you a ton of deals right now, which is awesome. Yep. And then you have like open houses is another category. All of those were generating business, and all of those you were working consistently. And that's key, I think, for everybody listening to this to know, he got deals from every single one of those. There's not some magic formula happening where he's only getting investor deals, but that's propping up his numbers. It was pretty evenly spread, biggest being Sphere and Facebook probably for you in your first year. But it's pretty evenly spread, which is impressive.
Yeah, and when I coach other agents on our team too, they're like, "How does Tim get into those numbers?" And then I'll show side by side. It's like, well, you're getting the same Facebook leads he's getting, but he's also doing the open houses.
Yes,
and he's going to the investor meetup, and he's doing the coffees with the Sphere. And I was like, if you want those numbers, it just takes more action. You're doing a great job. Like, don't get me wrong, you're killing it, dude. but you can't compare yourself with Tim with the actions that he's taken. If you want that, you got to take the actions that he's taken.
Yeah, it's so good. Tim, if you put your coaching hat on and you were trying to identify and say to agents out there why you think agents are not succeeding, is there anything you would tell them? Even you think about Acree Brothers, there's some agents on the team who are not doing as well as others. What are you seeing, and what would you tell those people?
Yeah, well, first I would probably tell them to go get a coach. I would say go get a coach. That was the reason I joined the team, right? One, I knew I would have access to Luke, which we've been friends since we were born, but it's different when you're running businesses and families. You have to find a way to add value to each other. So I knew if I joined the Acree Brothers, I would have access to Luke because we would help Reminder Media because we would show how the products worked. But I really joined the team because I knew they would provide me with the people to call, like they would give me something to do that would be productive, and they would give me the coaching. I almost went and spent like $1,000 a month on a coach. But the more I've talked to coaches, the more I've realized I'm not at a level yet where it makes sense to pay for a coach because you guys have enough. You're so far ahead of me that I can learn so much. But I would get a coach or get on a team, and then it's all about you just got to work your plan. I mean, it's that simple. Because let's look at the guys on the team. I completely destroyed everybody on the team. That sounds terrible. Now that I've heard it, but I did 70, in 2024. I did 70 deals. Steve and I think did 89, and our team did a little over 200. So you do the math on what the other 3 licensed agents did, and it tells you like they didn't do near the production that I did. Well, this year these guys are crushing it. I think no one has less than 3 deals this month, and they're killing it because they've got their goals and they know what they have to do, and so they're working their plan. Like I get in here, I start prospecting usually at 8 a.m. in the morning. Guess who's here with me? Adam. If I come here late, guess who's here? Carson or Noah, right? Like I'm often here running my Bible study, and Noah will be walking out at like 8 or 8:30 at night because he needed to hit his prospecting goals. Like that's what you have to do, is what Luke said earlier. You have to make your plan, commit to your plan, and then whatever it takes, take action on the plan and do the work. And that's what I would tell them.
And I'll add to that too, is what you can do better as a leader, as like a team leader, for those that are listening to this, is to set the expectations and the goals for your team to succeed. So one thing we did really well this year is meeting at like the end of October, beginning of November, and dove into the history of like, all right, where'd your leads come from? What goals and the whys behind next year? And then how are we going to get there with these separate leads? So the tracking part of it is so huge to give your team a vision on where they should go and what actions they should take. So a lot of that I take blame for of that, because I feel like we set our agents up really well this year and they're succeeding at that. But that comes back to the leadership, not just the agents.
Yeah, it's so well said. Super
awesome.
Well said.
Tim, man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been fun watching your journey. Even better hearing you kind of reflect on it and share that with everybody. Before we close out, how can people connect with you, follow your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know my social media handles, so I would say I think it's
search Tim Bushnell on social media.
Tim Bushnell on Instagram.
I'll look it up for you real quick. You're pretty active on social. I see you quite often, but I don't think I think it's a great way for you to influence your sphere. It is the.tim.bushnell. So you can find him at, the.tim.bushnell. Look him up on Instagram, Facebook.
Tim Bushnell.
Yeah, exactly. All the other fake Tim Bushnells out there, don't follow them, but follow Tim Bushnell.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Cody and Steven, as well. And thank you all for listening. You can get all of the show notes and the links that we mentioned here over at staypaidpodcast.com. You can follow us on YouTube, youtube.com/remindermedia. And if you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can follow us on social media. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, I am Luke Acree. And Tim, it is so exciting to have you on the show. We're going to have you back. I want you to talk about your investors and what you're doing there, because I think you've done a stellar job building a lead source that way. And then I want to have you back to talk about Facebook leads, because you call a lot of them and you have a lot of success with them. So we're going to have you back multiple times, because I really think a lot of the audience can learn from what you're doing, really the practicality of what you just implement every single day. Your action item from this episode is really, really clear. right? You have to put down on paper what your action plan is. You heard Cody say it. You've got to track. You've got to set a goal and then start working that plan. That is the key. Most of you are waking up today not knowing what you're going to do. And that's a massive problem. You need to reverse engineer from your goal. You need to reverse engineer the actions that it's going to take to get you there and work that every single day. Remember, the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every single business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.